What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue here with my 2024 predictions for the upcoming 2024 college football season. The South Carolina Gamecocks are up next. South Carolina coming off a very disappointing year last year in 2023, going 5-7 overall. So missing out on a bowl game, and this is a South Carolina team that a couple years ago won 8 games. It seems like the program is heading in the right direction with Shane Beamer. Now it's gone back down. Really not in the right direction. So my thoughts on this team, though, for 2024. I think South Carolina is going to be a pretty decent team. They're just not on the level like, of some of these talented, teams and everything in the SEC. So I don't really think they can beat the top teams in the SEC, but maybe they can pull off some upsets this year, but their schedule is pretty tough. You look at the roster, the offense does have some concerns. Spencer Rather, of course, is gone at quarterback, but I think the running backs are going to be pretty good for South Carolina. And then defensively, I think they are going to be pretty solid on defense. They do have a good amount of production coming back there. So South Carolina might have a strong defense, but let's go ahead and get to the schedule here for 2024. And again, this is that schedule here for South Carolina. It's pretty tough this year. And again, they were 5-7 last year in 2023, missing out on a bowl game. So let's now go game by game and give you a record prediction here for the South Carolina Gamecocks for 2024. They will start things off with Old Dominion here on August 31st. Not a bad Old Dominion team, but I think South Carolina will take care of business. It's the first game here of the season with that kind of new offense and everything. You obviously are going to have a new quarterback and everything, so we'll see how that works out. So I think South Carolina probably takes care of business. They probably score 30 points in this one, and I think they start off 1-0 pretty easily with a win over Old Dominion. And then after that, they open up SEC play here rather early here in week number 2, and it will be on the road here at Kentucky on September 7th. Of course, a revenge game for the Wildcats from last year. Kentucky, I think, is going to be pretty good this year. They added a ton of pieces in the transfer portal. I've already done my Kentucky video from last week, and I did choose the Wildcats here. I think Kentucky definitely is the more talented team, but I think South Carolina can keep Kentucky, really low scoring here in this one. It might be a defensive battle. Both defenses, I think, are pretty even, but Kentucky might just have the better offense, and they also are definitely the more consistent team as well. So with that being said, we've seen some good matchups here in the past between South Carolina and Kentucky, but Kentucky, has kind of dominated the series as of late. I'm going to go with the Wildcats here. Again, they're the much more better team. So I got South Carolina losing on the road here at Kentucky, and I got Kentucky giving South Carolina their first loss of the season, so that puts their record now at 1-1. And then after that, they'll play LSU here at home on September 14th, an LSU team that's going to be very talented. I think both of these teams on the defensive side of the football might be pretty even, but LSU might be having they might have a more talented roster than South Carolina does. You look at this LSU team, South Carolina is playing at home in this one, so I think they'll actually compete here for a half or two, but I think LSU is definitely a more well-coached team, and also they're definitely the more talented roster. So with that being said, South Carolina at home, LSU probably pulls away here in the second half. They do beat South Carolina here at home against, like I said, they beat South Carolina here at their home place, and I got South Carolina losing to LSU there on September 14th for their second loss of the season. So I got them starting out 1-2, but then they take care of business against Akron here, and that puts their record now here at 2-2. So I actually got them starting out 2-2 in the first part of the season, but then they get their bye week here before playing Ole Miss here at home on October 5th. This is a pretty good spot for a bye week here for South Carolina, against an Ole Miss team that is going to be really loaded with experience on both sides of the football. They also added some pieces in the transfer portal. This will be a home game here for South Carolina, so you might think that South Carolina might have a chance to win this game. I think they're going to want to run the football here just to keep that Ole Miss offense off the field for as long as possible. I think they can keep Ole Miss from, scoring a lot of points in this game, but I don't think it will be enough. I think Ole Miss is definitely the more talented team. Maybe Ole Miss probably pulls away in the second half just like the LSU game, so I think that's what's going to happen here. I think South Carolina hangs around for a half, but I think Ole Miss definitely pulls away. Again, they're the more talented team and definitely the more talented roster. So I got South Carolina losing at home to Ole Miss here on October 5th. So that puts their record now here at 2-3. Next game on the road here at Alabama on October the 12th. Very tough place to play. Alabama, of course, new head coach Kalen DeBoer now taking over. This is on the road here, so this is going to be a really tricky game. I don't really see South Carolina having a really big chance in this one. I know South Carolina, or actually Alabama, is going to go with a new coaching change here, but I don't think it will be enough. Alabama is still overall going to be a very talented team, and I just think South Carolina is going to really have a hard time stopping that Alabama offense. I think South Carolina could try to run the football, but it won't be enough. So I'm going to go with Alabama there on the road, and I think South Carolina loses 2 games in a row. That puts their record now at 2-4. And then they play another road game here against Oklahoma here on October 19th. So back-to-back road games here with Alabama and Oklahoma. 2 very tough places to play. You look at Oklahoma, they're going to have a really good defense. So this might be a defensive battle, low-scoring type game, but Oklahoma might be the more talented team here. This could be like a really good game. It could be like a game that probably can go either way, but I just think Oklahoma definitely is the more talented team. I think they're definitely the more well-coached team as well. And Shane Beamer actually is returning here to Oklahoma. He used to be at Oklahoma here as an assistant and everything, so that looks like it's going to be a homecoming here. But I think Oklahoma wins this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive battle, and I think South Carolina loses their 3rd game in a row on the road here at Oklahoma, and that puts their record now at 2-5. And then after that, they get to the month of November. They get a bye week here at the end of October before playing at home against Texas A&M on November 2nd. Another pretty good spot here for a bye week for South Carolina before playing a big game against Texas A&M. Of course, a revenge game here for South Carolina from last year. They get Texas A&M at home this season. That really does bode well for this team. You look at Texas A&M with a first-year head coach. Mike Elko and this Texas A&M team is going to be pretty good, but I've already done my Texas A&M video maybe 4 weeks ago, and I did choose South Carolina here to pull off an upset. Plus, I think South Carolina is really desperate at this point to try to make it to a bowl game. They're sitting there with a record of 2-5 after 3 losses in a row. They really get past that tough stretch there from September 7th all the way to October 19th. Maybe that stretch from October 5th all the way to October 19th is their toughest stretch, but I think they finally get a win here. They pull off the upset here against Texas A&M. It will be a low-scoring type game. I think South Carolina probably plays their best game here at home against Texas A&M here on November 2nd. They get revenge on the Texas A&M from last year's game as well. So I got South Carolina getting their first official win here in the SEC on this schedule against Texas A&M at home. So that puts their record now at 3-5. Next game on the road here at Vanderbilt on November 9th. Don't really expect this game to be all that close. Vanderbilt really not going to be that good this year. Not really high on this team. I know this game is on the road. South Carolina probably could start out slow after a big win over Texas A&M, but South Carolina takes care of business either way, so I think they win back-to-back games here. They beat Texas A&M and then, of course, Vanderbilt here the next week, so that puts their record now at 4-5. And then after that is a big home game against Missouri on November 16th. Again, this will be a home game here for South Carolina. I also chose South Carolina to win this game against Missouri. This is one of those games, like I mentioned in the Missouri video a long time ago, that I think the Tigers will slip up in. And again, playing on the road at South Carolina is a very tough place to play. You don't want to play South Carolina in the month of November. They'll be better by this time, and the crowd will be fired up for this game as well. South Carolina definitely, like I said, is desperate for wins at this point to make it to a bowl game. And again, I think they pull off the upset here. I'm going to go with the upset. I think South Carolina pulls it off here. They beat Missouri at home just like the Texas A&M game. It's probably going to be a low-scoring type game, but South Carolina will play their best football here against Missouri and Texas A&M right here in the month of November. Again, it's one of those upset alert type games here in the month of November as well. So I got South Carolina improving to 5-5 on the season, and then they take care of business against Wofford on November 23rd. So that puts their record now at 6-5. That does get them to a bowl game. And then the final game of the season is on the road here at Clemson on November 30th. This game is in Death Valley, of course, a very tough place to play to end the season. South Carolina coming to this game as a 4-game winning streak. A couple of years ago, remember South Carolina pulled off the upset there on the road at Death Valley a couple years ago. I know that was a big win for South Carolina that year, but this year I think Clemson definitely will be ready for them at Death Valley, and plus I think Clemson definitely is the more talented team here. I think it will be a close game, maybe for the first half, but maybe Clemson probably pulls away in the second half. It could be a low-scoring defensive battle. I think both defenses are pretty even, and obviously it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen, but at the end of the day, Clemson is at home in this game. It is in Death Valley, a very tough place to play, so I'm going to go with Clemson here to knock off South Carolina in the final game of the season, and that ruins South Carolina's 4-game winning streak going into that final game of the season on the road here at Clemson. So I got South Carolina finishing with a record of 6-6, so I have this team going to a bowl game. 6-6 though might be still a disappointment though for South Carolina fans. They would kind of rather see this team maybe go like 7-5 or 8-4, but I don't really see them going 7-5 or 8-4. This is a very tough schedule. You got Kentucky on the road, you got LSU, Ole Miss at home, and then you got back-to-back road games with Alabama and Oklahoma. Those are very tough back-to-back road games, and then Texas A&M and Missouri are home games, and then you got Clemson in the non-conference. So yeah, this is a really brutal schedule here for South Carolina for 2024. That's the reason why I just got them going 6-6, but I think they pull off a couple upsets here against Texas A&M and Missouri here, so that's what upsets I'm going to go with here for South Carolina. But 6-6 is my prediction here for South Carolina for 2024. So let me guys know what you think about this South Carolina team. What do you think their record will be for 2024? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.